Hey everybody, my name is Frank. This is the PothOnProgramming video log, and today I'm doing part 13 of the Stay Down devlog. I am going to be adding some spikes to the top of the screen, and we're going to have the player hit the spikes and do something. Basically reset the game. Also going to move the score down here. Probably going to do a little something with the platforms as well to make them a little bit more fun to interact with. I'm probably going to make a space over here where you can just stand. So when you restart, you're kind of starting out from a position where you're safe, and then you can jump into the game. So basically just going to do a little bit of game design, a little bit of refactoring of code. Let's go ahead and get to it. The first thing I need to do is add my spike image. So this is going to be the spike. Zoom all the way in here. So this is the spike. I'm going to just add these all the way across the top of the screen. With what we have set up so far, this is actually going to be pretty easy. So I just need to go to the main.js file, the stay down JS file. That's where we're loading our images in. And in the load image function, I'm just going to go ahead and add the URL for the spike graphic. So media/images/spike.png. And then down here, we're going to go ahead, I don't know why I have commas here. I'm going to go ahead and replace those with semicolons. Images.spike equals images_3. Save. If we don't have any problems, it probably loaded properly. Okay, so now let's go into the run game state. And we're going to go to the render function. And I want my spikes to kind of be drawn last because I want them to be drawn over top of everything. So when the player collides with the spikes, you have the spikes here, and the player is actually like showing up behind the spikes, not in front of them. So I'll draw those last. So all I need to do is go to the render function, go to the last line in the function, and just add another loop. This way we could draw some spikes. So let's do x equals world width minus 16. My spike image is 16 pixels wide by 8 pixels tall. So I'm going to draw the first one 16 pixels away from the full width of the world. So we're going to do x is world width minus 16, x is greater than -1, x minus equals 16, and then inside of here is where we're just going to say renderer.draw image images.spike and x, and all the spikes are going to be at a y of 0. So let's see if we got that to work. Alright, cool. So we have some spikes at the top. The colors kind of blend a little too well. I didn't really test the image with the actual game, but I think I'm going to make the background color change because it's kind of a dull gray. I'd rather look at something a little more vibrant. I was going to do actual graphics in the background, but I think I'm just going to make the colors change. As you can see, when we enter into the spikes, obviously nothing happens yet, but the player's head goes behind the spikes. So that's pretty much what I want. This way, the last thing you see when there's a collision isn't you on top of the spikes. You kind of see it behind the spikes. Focuses more on the spikes. Anyway, now that we have these spikes up here, we need to move this score counter down. I want to move it down here. So inside of the resize function, we set our output position. The output is the P element. So let's go ahead and set the top to rectangle.top plus rectangle.height. The rectangle is the bounding client rect of our display canvas. So that basically just gives us a rectangle around our canvas in the browser window. So it kind of knows the location of that rectangle, and that allows us to get the position we need, which is this position down here, and then we can move our output up from that, the top of the rectangle plus the height, and then we'll just subtract like 64, I think. Let's do minus 60, let's do minus 32, see what that gets us. So that should put our output P element in a slightly better spot. I think that's pretty good. I might want to move it up a little bit more or increase the size of that. So let's do, instead of 32, let's just do 64. I might just, that's a little too high. Let's do, instead of 64, about 48. That's a bit better. And then I can increase the size of my p tag if I want. If I come down here, I can say font size is 32 pixels. That's pretty good. It's a little bit large. I was kind of hoping to put some text in here, so when I hit the top, I can actually output some text, kind of like the main character saying something. If I make the font that big, it's probably going to be a little too big. So let's go back to 24, refresh. That's okay. I can move it down a little bit. Instead of minus 48, I'll just do minus 40. That's pretty centered. I can live with that. It's pretty good. All right, the next thing I want to do is make a safe spot over here for my player to return to when she hits the top of the screen. So we're going to have to get rid of this very first platform here. And the way to do that is to come down to where we actually initialize all our platforms right here. And very simply, we're just going to say when we're looping from world width, just like we did with the spikes. So we're looping back from here all the way to here. So we're just going to say when x is less than 16, I guess. Save. Let's just get rid of that first one. Cool. Also, I kind of want to move this guy a little bit farther off the wall. So we're going to start at world width minus 20 and see what that gets us. All right, that gives us a little bit more of a space, and also the player can kind of start over here. It's like a little safe spot for the player to be. Let's go ahead and move the player, make the player's initial position something basically to set her right here. So let's do define the player underneath the ground so we can actually use the ground level to set the position. We're going to do new player. It's going to start at 4, x of 4, and ground.top minus 32, which I believe is the player height. It's a little bit too far, so let's go to 2. Cool. All right, so now we're starting out right here. That's pretty good. I might also want to start the diamond off in a static starting position as well. And this is where we're going to get into a little bit of refactoring, because I've decided that I'm not going to take the game much farther than this simple procedure that you see right here. We've got platforms rising up, we've got a player, we've got an item, we've got spikes, which don't even have an object. They're basically just a graphic that I'm drawing to the screen. So I don't really want to take this game much farther than this at this point in its development, because honestly I've been getting more interested in other projects, but you can still learn a lot from this. So I'm going to finish this project out and kind of just polish it a little bit from where it is and make it playable, maybe add some sound and stuff like that. But it's basically just going to be a very simple game where you jump on these platforms and hit some spikes and collect diamonds. So next, what I want to do is, let's see, I would like to move these platforms so they don't start down here and they start inside of this line. Oh, well, first I was going to do some refactoring, but actually let's go ahead and start with the platforms, because we were already messing with those anyway. So let's go down here and say, oh, actually they start at ground top already. As you can see, when we create a platform, we create it at its X position and ground top. So when we reset these things, I want them to reset down here. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to come into the platform constructor, and I'm going to add a reset method. I'm going to add a Y position to that as a parameter. This way we can actually set the Y position. So when we reset our platform, we're basically just going to make it start at 0 velocity and at whatever Y position we decide it gets, which is going to be the ground. So let's go to rectangle, because platform inherits from rectangle. So there's a method in rectangle called setTop, and I'm going to use setTop to set the Y position of my platform here. So this dot set top Y. Do I have an old Y position for platform, or is that just the player? I think it's just the player that has old Y and Y, and we use that for collision detection, but the platform I guess doesn't need it. So now we have a reset function. Let's go ahead and see if we can get it to work. So inside of our update function, I just need to find where I'm updating all the platforms. Okay, so here we're updating the platforms. We're looping through. If platform.y is less than 32, platform.y equals world height. I want to say platform.reset, and I'm going to pass in ground.top. Save. So let's see what we get now. So they all start here, and then they're resetting back to the ground top, which is where I want it. The only thing is I don't want them to disappear right here. I think I want them to go all the way off the screen, so I'm just going to say if platform.y is less than 0. Let's see what we get. That looks a whole lot better, I think. The other thing that I'd like to do is move this line, this dark line that goes across, which represents the ground. I want to move that to be on top of the platform, so it kind of looks like they're just coming out of the ground. I think that would be a nice aesthetic touch. So let's go to the render function and find where we're drawing the ground. Fill rect, ground top, world width. This looks like it. So I've got these two lines here. Also no longer need all these fill styles because I believe these were from when I was rendering the graphics with the Canvas Drawing API. So don't need that anymore, but we are going to go in here and draw our line at the bottom. This way it includes everything. Let's see what we get. Alright, so now it kind of looks like the platforms are just kind of like popping up from underneath this line. So I think this is already a huge improvement over what we had before, because now we actually have spikes at the top of the screen. Our platforms look like they're coming out of the ground. We have a little safe space for our player to start in. This way, you know, you start out the game, you're like kind of getting a feel for it. Just doesn't just like throw you straight up into the spikes and kill you. So that's pretty cool. Next thing I want to do is move this to a standard location when it's starting out. So let's go ahead and do that. So what do we got here? And this is going to be part of the refactoring a little bit too, because instead of having a where is it? Managers. Instead of having an image managers or an item manager class, file, whatever you want to call it, object, I'm going to get rid of item manager and platform manager, and I'm just going to have arrays in my run game state for platforms, and I'm just going to have an object for the item, because really it's just one item. I was going to add more, but now I'm thinking I'm just going to keep it simple. So let's go ahead and go into the item manager, take out this line, completely delete the item manager, cold turkey, go over to our HTML, get rid of the item manager. I'm going to do the same thing to the platform manager in a bit, save that, come back to run, get rid of the item manager here, so we're no longer what is this? Destructuring objects, is that what that is? It's been so long since I worked on this project. It's been like a month or two, and I'm starting to forget how I laid everything out, which is part of the reason I want to wrap this up, because I've been doing other projects in the meantime, which is not a good idea. I should have just stuck to this and wrote it all the way through, but I'm starting to forget some of the layout of things. Anyway, let's go ahead, and instead of having that item manager, we're going to have just an item. So I'm going to say const item is equal to a new item. It's going to start at x of 128 because our world width is, I think, 256. And then Y is going to be, let's do like 100. Save. This is going to break something. Cannot read property activate of undefined at change state, stay down. I don't know why that would be the case, but I'm sure it's because I'm trying to use that item manager in some way. Yeah, perhaps this is it right here. Okay. So I don't want that anymore. So let's get that out of there. And then here, we're no longer going to be looping over an array of items because there's only one item. So, and I'm calling it item, so I don't really need to rename that. That's just going to be now referring to a constant instead of one of the items in that items array. So we're going to collide rectangle with rectangle, item player, item. Just making sure everything looks good here. Refresh and see if we get more errors. Can I read activate if undefined at stay down JS line 30? What did I do? I broke something in the syntax, I bet. Managers is platform manager. Let's take a look if there are any other errors here. Item is not defined. Okay, so this is simple enough. I am just not importing item. So let's do item. We're going to pull that out of the constructors object of our global stay down object. So now this error should go away and hopefully it fixes the rest of the problem here. We still get a weird problem because we got rid of item manager, so now we're trying to render items inside of our item manager array, but that's not a thing anymore. So let's go ahead and inside of our render function, I'm just going to get rid of our for loop. Actually, all I need to do is say that's it. That's all I'm doing. So we're drawing the item at item xy. See what we get. It always starts out in the same place, which is kind of in the center of the screen, which is good. Let's see what happens when I try to hit it. All right, I hit it, and it jumps to a new location. It's increasing my item counter, so I think I actually fixed that. So that's cool. Let's do the same thing for platforms and go ahead and get rid of the platform manager because I'm not going to have multiple types of platforms. I'm just going to stick with the one kind. Let's go over here and just say platforms equals a new array. Come all the way down to the bottom where we're initializing our platforms, and we are going to say platforms.push. Come into our platform manager, copy this line out, delete the platform manager completely, move it to the trash can. Before I forget to do this, come over here and get rid of it there, so we're no longer pulling it into the HTML. Come back to run and say push a new platform at x, y is ground dot top, and then the last thing we need to do is all the way at the top, I need to stop creating a local constant for the platform manager because it just doesn't exist anymore. And I can go ahead and get rid of the managers folder now. So let's go ahead and get rid of that folder. Move it to the trash. All right, cool. Let's see if we broke anything. Platform is not defined because I forgot to import it. So import is the wrong word. Basically, I'm destructuring a constant called platform from the constructors object of my main stay down object. So here's my stay down object. I have a object inside of that object called constructors, and when I define my platform class, I'm adding it to that constructors object. So here inside the run game state, I am pulling that out and just creating a local constant called platform. It's just easier to type it that way. instead of doing like stay down dot constructors dot platform, I can just come down here and just say new platform, which is a lot easier to read. So let's go ahead and see if I fixed it. Whoa. Oh, I forgot to take it out of the take the platform manager out of my update and render functions. All right, so here I'm setting platforms equal to the platform manager's active platforms array. I no longer need to do that. I just access my constant platforms array, which I defined up at the top. And we're gonna have to probably do the same thing inside of the render function. So let's go over there. We've got, let's see, platforms equals that. Let's go ahead and see if we fixed it. All right, pretty good. So I like that. One thing that I haven't done yet that needs to be done to finish adding these spikes successfully, I think this is the last thing I'm going to do for this video, is make the player collide with those spikes and actually do something. I'm going to have her collide with the spikes, and when she hits those spikes, I'm going to put her back down over here. So that's what we're going to do for our spike collision. Inside of the update function is where we're going to handle that. I think there's already a condition to check if the player is at a certain height. Actually, you know what? There's not. The player just falls when the platform disappears. So the player can really go as high as she can, which isn't very high because her jump isn't super high. But let's go ahead and inside the update function, just add a condition. If player dot, what should I do? Get top. Get top is a method that I defined on the rectangle class, and player inherits from rectangle. So get the top. If the top of the player is less than 4, which is going to put us kind of halfway into those spikes. Player.getTop is less than 4, then we want to set player.y equals player.old y equals ground.top minus player.height. So let's see what we get. Should set her right down on the ground. Cool. Sets her down on the ground, but I would like to also put her over here. So let's do player.x equals, I believe 2 was where I put her initially. So let's see what we get. Boom. Right back to where we started. And if we want to say something, we can come in here and do ouch. All right, so we hit the spikes. All right, so now we get a message that says ouch. I'm thinking one of the things I'm going to do is kind of try to add some story elements to kind of flesh the game out a bit, make it a little more interesting, since it is just jumping on platforms and trying to avoid hitting spikes, which doesn't look that hard at this point. I might have to adjust. Well, some of the speeds are pretty good. I think I'm going to have her try to collect like 50 diamonds or like 75 diamonds or something like that, and if she can get 75, then I'm gonna go ahead and win the game. But when you hit the spikes, it should reset your count there. So let's do item count equals 0. Inner text equals ouch. If we have no items when we hit the ceiling, we say ouch. Dang it. Hazards of using single quote. probably shouldn't touch. Probably shouldn't touch those spikes. Ouch. Oh snap. I lost my diamonds. Alright, so we don't need this. Let's see if that works. So, oh, nope. What did I do wrong? There we go. Alright, so probably want to replace that hello message too. So when we hit the spikes and we don't have any items, it says, ouch, probably shouldn't touch those spikes. And then, oh, you know what is going to be a problem though? If I can shrink the screen, do I get overflow hidden or? Because my text doesn't actually resize. And I'm pretty sure in like Firefox browser, you can shrink this screen way smaller than this. Well, not way smaller, but like twice as small. Whatever. I'll figure that out later. For now, we hit the spikes. Ouch. Oh snap, I lost my diamonds. That is if you collect a diamond. If you don't collect a diamond, ouch, probably shouldn't touch those spikes. If you do, ouch, oh snap, I lost my diamonds. What should we do for the start text? Instead of hello, we're going to say, where am I? I need to get out of here. So that's what you're going to start out with. So when the run game state, well, I guess when you first enter the run game state and it's a new game, output.innerText will be, where am I? I need to get out of here. In fact, let's move this over to the activate method. So every time you activate the run game state, the first thing you're going to see is, where am I? I need to get out of here. So you're only going to see that once when you enter the run game state, and from there on you're going to just see messages about either how many diamonds you have or you just hit the ceiling. Cool. So we have now added some spikes. You can touch the spikes, it resets your position. We cleaned up some unneeded files that we didn't need anymore. We have platforms that reset themselves a little bit nicer. They don't just rush up constantly. When they start out at the bottom, they kind of gradually move up, which is nice. I think I'm going to call this a video, a completed video, and stay tuned for the next video. We're going to try to polish up this game a little bit. All right, just got to go ahead and sign off. See ya.